Hi, everyone. Welcome to All Things Metaphysical podcast. My hair is doing really weird things as we log on today. This is episode 26. We're doing it a day early because we thought it would be really fun to do our episode on 02/22/2022, which every time I see numbers like that, I think of binary codes.
Yeah,
And like everything is lining up, and these binary codes are seeding everything. So it's just really interesting to me. So.
yeah, yeah. It is. Sometimes I see them. There be numbers floating in the air, which is really interesting.
Oh, I guess we should also introduce ourselves. I'm Gail.
I'm Kelly.
Welcome to our episode. As we were talking earlier, the energy is really interesting today.
Yeah.
I thought it was going to be one way going into this
hmm
portal today, and it is something completely different.
Yeah. It's a little strange. I was really expecting this shift to be where it would calm down some of the wonkiness we've had. No, it's just added more. So it's it's kind of we're just surfing. We're just riding the waves and doing the best we can, which is really what I do every day anyway. So
Yeah, so I don't know if we're going to have any viewers today. There seems to be some issues on Facebook where we stream live. But if anyone can see us and is watching, as always, just put your comments in the comments section and we will see them and answer them.
yeah,
So, one of the things we were also talking about before we started is reimbursement for services.
yeah, that seems to be a thing. Um, People don't realize things like energy work, especially energy work, if you want to get something out of it, or readings.
Mhm,
There needs to be an exchange for that. And people who do that work deserve to be paid. And
mhm,
there seems to be a thing where maybe someone will think they can pay once, and then that covers them through any question they have for the future. And that's really not right. Number one, if it's an
mhm,
energy work that you're receiving, you're not going to get the benefit from that or as much as you would if you're not paying for it. There needs to be an exchange. It doesn't always have to be a monetary exchange,
mhm.
but there needs to be some sort of an exchange. That's just a really, really important thing.
Have you ever heard well, you're supposed to be a spiritual being. Why are you charging?
Right. And, it's because spiritual beings, like it or not, live on this planet and we have bills to pay. Believe me, most of us would prefer to be up over here floating somewhere, but we are on this planet and we have the same bills and the same obligations that anyone else has. I used to have a friend that was a painter,
Mhm,
and he would be really upset when friends would want to get one of his paintings and not pay for it. Well, it's just, you just did it. It's fun for you. And he would say, "Isn't your dad a doctor?
mhm,
Um, I would like free medical care because it's something he does. It's fun for him."
mhm,
And that was the most succinct way I've ever heard someone
mhm,
approach that subject. But truly, everyone deserves to be paid.
mhm,
Now, where I live, we do a lot of bartering.
mhm.
That's fine, but there has to be an exchange. There has to be.
I was telling you before we went live that I just did this event yesterday, and I don't know how many intuitives do things like this, but I just think it's really fun. I've now named it metaphysical speed dating. And so I pulled a card for every single person who was at the event. So I think there was like 45 to 47 people
That's a lot.
within 50 minutes.
That's a lot.
And I just went from person to person and gave everyone a message because I think so many times people go to events like that. And when you just have someone on stage, not everyone gets a reading. And I always think it's really cool when everyone can have a reading. And I'm like, oh, this is going to be so much fun. And then I forget how tired I am after doing that,
Yeah.
and I just like, oh, I'll just be in the energy. It'll be really cool. It'll be really fun. And then I get home like 2 hours later, I'm like, boy, I'm really tired.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's something that there has to be a way for you to get, something in exchange for that, even though it's one card and it's a really quick reading, because you deserve some kind of exchange for
Oh,
that.
oh, there was an exchange. I mean, I was paid to do the event. So, I mean, there was an energy exchange that happened.
I had a friend who worked in a coffee shop. She had her own, it was her coffee shop, but she had a t-shirt made that said, "Yes, I accept tips." And I think that's something else that people don't realize. Like at your event, if someone would have given you a couple dollars as a tip or a five as a tip, that would have really been nice.
Mhm.
And people just don't think about that. They think nothing about tipping their server or their hairdresser, but they do not tip people who are at events doing it's a service you're providing.
It's really interesting. I never really thought about that before.
Yeah.
I was trying to think because I used to do a lot of expos and shows and things like that. I was trying to think. I think a couple times people paid me a little extra, but no one has ever really given me a tip.
Yeah.
So,
And that's common, people generally don't tip their readers. But I think at a large event like that, where you are putting out so much of yourself, and it really does wipe us out when we do. If I do more than 3 readings a day, I'm like comatose. And it
so
just,
47 is a bit much.
yeah, it's a bit much.
I just think it's so much fun because, my name is the No Nonsense Intuitive, and then it just comes through so fast. Like,
Right.
I was thinking about all the other people I know who do readings. I'm like, how long would it take them to do that versus how long it took me to do that?
And I think that goes back to a previous discussion we had on a different show about how everyone who does this is slightly different.
Mhm,
And I think a lot of it comes with experience, though. I know I read a lot faster these days than I used to,
mhm.
but it just, everyone is different. So you can have, you had 47 people, you can have 47 readers, and they're all going to be, a little bit different. But you are very gifted, and then it comes through so quickly. Does wear you out, though.
One of my favorite things from the other day was this lady when I got to her because I gave people a couple different choices of what they wanted. And this lady's like, "I want 3 words. Don't tell me anything about it. I love when people test me."
Yeah,
And she's like, "Just give me 3 words." And I don't remember what the words were, but I just went, "Bam, bam. Here's your 3 words." And she's like,
right.
"Oh, how
Yeah,
did you do that?" Because you could see the look on her face going, "Oh my god, where did she pick those 3 words from?" Because they were so accurate.
yeah.
It
I've
was
had
so
someone ask me for a color,
funny. Uh-huh.
and I thought that was interesting too, because a color, what do you mean pick a color? But it was interesting.
Yeah. So we have a couple people who are watching us right now. So if you guys have any questions, please put it in the comments section and we will do our best to answer them. I know Facebook, because we both checked before we logged on, there are some issues with Facebook today where we're streaming. So no idea if this is going to be recorded for people to watch later or not, but we're still doing it anyway.
It seems to be working now.
Okay.
Yeah, so I just checked. Um, and
Do
that's
you
a little
feel
interesting too today, don't you think?
I just feel like I was just sitting here going, I feel revved up. Like my foot's on the brake, but my other foot is on the gas pedal, like revving the car. And I'm like, I'm not sure where I'm going or when I get to take my foot off the brake, but that's what it feels like today. I just feel like I'm being amped up and amped up and amped up.
Yeah,
And it's like, or like a top that's going to start spinning. So,
they're
interesting.
singing dreidel, dreidel, dreidel in my head now. Thanks.
You're very welcome. Because that's really like the only Hanukkah song.
Yeah, yeah. It's kind of feels like a hurry up and wait energy. get ready, get ready, get ready. Oh, we're not going to tell you where we're going or what we're doing. We just want you to get ready. Like, thanks.
Yeah,
Very helpful.
it's just really interesting. I every month this year, I am just amazed is versus kind of like how I thought it would go versus how it actually is going.
Right.
I'm just surprised every month. And it's just so funny. People are always like, "Well, how do you get surprised? Because you get pretty accurate information." And I'm like, "Yeah, it still surprises me all the time."
There are some things they just don't want us to know. you
Mhm,
know, um, even really interesting things, they will take me at least to a point and we'll get information and then like, nope, that's it. Can't have any more, come back later. And it's kind of frustrating, but I've gotten used to it. And now I'm just like, all right, whatever.
mhm.
I'll go over here, do something else now. But yeah, it's a freaky energy the last couple of days around here.
And freaky experiences are
Yeah.
going on. Not that I'm gonna go into great detail.
No, but it's been interesting.
If
Been really
anyone is having really unusual experiences right now, just know it's the energy and things are gonna calm down again because
yeah.
it's been a little weird. We talked about this before, and my first book that I published with you is called "I Don't Know How I Know, I Just Know."
Mhm.
But the title before that title was "My Life is a Bad Science Fiction Movie." And lately, that's really what my life has been feeling like again, is my life is like this really wild science fiction movie, and I don't know what's gonna happen next.
Right. It just is, and
Mhm,
I fortunately, I know other people who are also experiencing this, but it has been really interesting. It's We're very, very close to disclosure on a whole bunch of things,
mhm.
and there are many of us who are like, "Okay, give me a little bit more information." "No, no, no, come on, come on, come on, give it, give it, give it." And, it kinda gets us in trouble sometimes. Sometimes you can know too much about a certain thing, and, it goes from I always look at it with and I've been described as looking at the world with childlike wonder because I'm like, "Ooh, what's that? Let's do that," "What happens if we do this?" And, that has gotten me into trouble. But there are a whole bunch of us right now that are having very similar experiences.
Okay, so since you talked about disclosure and stuff, so they were just showing me thank you, because I just got a whole picture show. Um, so they were showing me the grids of the around the Earth, not
Yep.
on the Earth, but around the Earth, and that part of the reason that we're all struggling right now is they're making some fine-tune adjustments
Yeah.
to them, and it's affecting us a lot more than they thought it was gonna affect us.
And I think one of the things that I've been told lately by guides and other beings, um, there are a bunch of us that are more awake
Mhm,
than they anticipated us being right now. So we're seeing things and we're hearing things, and I see the full matrix grid sometimes,
mhm,
and it's just not what they expected.
mhm.
So I think a lot of us, they're hoping we kind of rein it back in a little bit because the humanity is not ready for what we know and for what we've seen.
Uh-huh. Can somebody who's watching us put a comment in the comments section? Because I just wanna make sure they're working. Because I
Yeah.
can see that there's people watching, but you haven't had any comments yet. So, if you are watching it, please put a comment in the comment section so we can make sure that that is working okay. Thank you. Hello back. It is working. Okay. So please ask us your questions. Last week was fun. We had a lot of questions last week during the show, and
Yep.
it was really fun. Interesting today when I was meditating, I was told to be ready for changes coming, but nothing was told.
Yep.
There you have it.
Yep. That's it. Be ready for whatever, whenever.
Yeah, and I feel like our loved ones who've crossed over are really close these days, like keeping an eye on us and like protecting us and watching over us. And I just have this sense of all my loved ones around me more so than I normally do.
I have a lot of animals that have crossed over around me the last several days. And it will says a lot about me. People, not so much, but every animal I've ever had in my life comes in occasionally. Some of them physically come back like multiple times. It kind of freaks people out that have known me for a long time because they'll say, um, how long have you had that cat? Oh, 42 years.
Yes, it's Happy Tuesday.
Yes, yes. Which is supposed to be about balance and new energy and, this wonderful positive shift. And I think I feel less balanced
Mhm.
over yesterday and today than I have in many years. So maybe it's affecting me a little differently, but
You just don't like to be normal, do you?
I am definitely abnormal. Yeah.
So again, let us know if you have any questions or there's any things that you guys want us to talk about. But yeah, it's just been really weird. I am having a really hard time switching gears, like from my regular day job to like all the other things that I do. And I've never really had a hard time doing that before. Like I could switch gears really easily and go back and forth between doing different things. But, not so much anymore. It's been much more difficult.
No, it's been, they're very insistent on people doing what we're supposed to be doing here.
Mhm.
And I've noticed, we've talked about this. I've had a publishing company for years, and I began phasing that out last year. And probably in the next couple of months, everything's going to stay the way it has been, but
Mhm.
I'm not doing anything new. And it's just because on a regular basis, I get messages, you're not supposed to do that anymore. You need to focus elsewhere, focus over here.
Mhm.
And I think you're feeling that too. They're saying, I know this has been your life, but we really, really, really need you to do this. And sometimes it's really chaotic.
Mhm.
When I went back to my spiritual journey, which I actually started many, many, many years ago, um, but I was married to someone who was very logical,
Mhm.
didn't believe any of this for a very long time. And when I finally had enough of being poked and prodded in the middle of the night by guides and spirits saying, we need you, come back over here, and my entire world fell apart.
Mhm.
It's like every aspect of my life was turned upside down and inside out. Now I look back and I see, well, they must have given me 37 warnings. You know, I just ignore them all. You
Mhm.
know, but that's what they do. They give you messages, and if you don't pay attention, it gets more and more and more severe. So I beg you, please pay attention.
Yeah, how many times do you wanna be smacked by the 2 by 4? That's your choice. Because
Yeah.
they will continue to do it till you do what you're supposed to be doing.
Yep. Absolutely, they will.
Mhm. Yeah, it's just interesting. There's so many things in our world right now that are interesting, and I think there's so much tension in the world because of events happening in the world right now that I think that's also making everyone on edge.
People are just too angry. They really are just too angry.
Mhm.
And I spend a lot of time sending love and light out into the universe to be used wherever it's needed.
Mhm.
And I usually I've set up a gauge so that I know what I'm doing and what I'm sending where.
Mhm.
And it's always we could use more, we can use more, we can use more. And it's gotta come to a head. And I think it is. I think something horrible is about to happen. Russia comes to mind, but I know
Amongst
nothing.
many different
Right.
possibilities, but yes, that's probably the biggest threat right now.
Yeah. It just people need. Really? People need to seriously take a chill pill is what I just heard. Uh, so yeah, but they do.
Mhm. But that's really hard because, like, when you're all amped up, a lot of times we don't know how to calm ourselves down or slow down because no one's really taught us how to do that. So, how do you start to do that when you're amped up and don't know how to take a chill pill?
I think what they would like people to do is have more empathy
Mhm,
because people are too wrapped up in me, mine, mine, mine. Now, what are you going to do for me? And that's not going to help anything. That's where wars come from.
mhm,
That's when people start rioting, give me mine. You have too much. Give me mine. And we should all be taking care of each other. But
mhm,
if you can stop yourself and say, what is this other person going through? What makes them think the way they're thinking? You usually, if you ask enough questions and dig deep enough, you find out this is a very wounded, hurt, grieving person,
mhm.
and that's one of the things I learned in volunteering at different places.
Yeah.
Uh, particularly food banks. You
Mhm.
want to see a bunch of angry people? Go to a food bank. You want to be
Not
yelled
all food banks. I've seen some that not everyone is angry. I think it's just circumstances.
It is circumstances, exactly.
Mhm,
And that's what we need to pay more attention to. I've had people yell at me because we did not give them the right food.
mhm,
I can't eat that. I need something else. And I think that's a bigger problem for the food bank. I think we should be doing a better job.
mhm,
Not everyone can eat, 20 pounds of rice and pasta in a month. A lot of people, that is not even allowed in
mhm,
their diet. So I think we can do a better job,
mhm.
first off. But, you really have to look at what that person's going through. And, in my experience, we've had a lot of really, really desperate, hurting people. And, they tend to yell a lot, at least.
Well, because I think people, you when you're so hurt and you're so frustrated, you just want to rage because you just want to get it all out. I mean, I don't think it's necessarily always at the person who's on the receiving end.
Right.
It's just whoever will listen. Sometimes that's how it comes out.
One of the advantages to having different people working it can be a food bank, homeless shelter, whatever. Um, I tend to listen. I tend to automatically go back into therapist mode.
Mhm,
Well, how are you feeling today? Well, what do you think is making you feel that way?
mhm,
And, I can calm people down really quickly, but then they don't want to leave.
mhm.
It's like you've got a big line behind you, lady. Can you please move forward? But maybe we all need to be doing more of that.
So it sounds like if we put it in a little bit different terms, it's about people want to be seen
Yeah, and they want
and
to be
they
heard.
feel like they have value.
Yeah.
And that doesn't seem to happen often.
No, and especially with the pandemic and
Mhm.
so many healthcare workers were really being abused, you
Yes,
know.
I'm familiar with that. Mm,
And you're taking a segment of the population
mm.
that we depend on and you're not taking care of them. And that broke my heart. And I was relieved that I am no longer in that line of work.
It was, I will say, because I was still doing therapy at that time and setting up Zoom and everything was moving over to Zoom. And normally, like, when you leave the office, you can kinda separate a little bit, but the
Right.
fact that everything was on Zoom and you were at home, as a therapist, at the time, I felt like I was basically working 24 hours a day because I had my stuff that I was going through with the pandemic. I had all my friends who had stuff that they were going through, and then all these people during the day that I was counseling to help them deal with it. And I'm like, there was never a break.
No. And that when you have the first responders
Mhm,
who are the ones who are typically calming the rest of us down and they get stressed.
Mhm.
It just really, I think, fed everything else. It's like,
Mhm.
well, if they're stressed, I must have to be stressed too.
Mhm.
And I don't think we've gotten over that. I understand the pandemic is still around. Oh, okay, we will always have it as long as people are afraid of it. But um, I think we need to get to the point where, okay, let's move forward now.
Mhm.
You know,
Well,
like we,
and this may be around for a long time. I always think about the movie The Last Mimsy every time we talk about the pandemic, and I've talked about this before. That the basic premise is a scientist sends like a bunny back through time to get clean DNA to help the future civilization that's all wearing like protective gear and they can't go outside without it. And I'm like, we're there now.
we are.
And so and I always think of this movie every time we talk about it because I think, and then people are afraid of the gifts and it's how
Yeah.
do we learn to just all accept each other?
That's the big thing is everyone needs to just, it's okay not to agree on every point.
Mhm,
You know, it's okay to not understand why some people are different.
mhm,
But there are certain areas of this country,
mhm,
unfortunately, I have people that I love dearly there, and they are just at each other's throats, over the dumbest things. It really, I remember in the early 70s, I was in school. I think it was in junior high school when it happened. And there was this big thing about people, one particular family who had a bajillion children were anti vaxxers. This was in the early 70s. So this issue has been going on for a very long time. And I remember there were people at the school, they held a big community meeting in the school talking about how, just because they didn't want to vaccinate their kids didn't mean they didn't deserve an education, didn't mean they didn't deserve to be treated like everyone else. And it wasn't really a big deal. And I wonder what happened to that line of thinking now, because that's kind of out the window now. Now, if you're not vaccinated, you're planning to murder your family or something. And I think it's the extremes
mhm.
that really get me. And you know what I think helps that proliferate? Social media, because people can sit at home in their pajamas in the middle of the night and they can spew out any hateful diatribe they would like to spew out there, and they feel like there are no consequences.
Well, because for the most part, there aren't.
Yeah, unless somebody that knows them reads it, and then but I know way back, I don't even remember when it was really. It was right when the pandemic was starting.
Mhm,
And I posted something about being civil and something about understanding, each other's viewpoints, and it's okay to disagree. And I immediately lost. I was unfriended by 60 people. And I'm like, whoa, did those people not belong there? And but it was true. If you're not going to have the agree to disagree and everyone's viewpoints are valid, at least to them,
mhm.
then maybe I don't want you following me anyway.
Well, I remember all those discussions in the beginning, and
Yeah,
everyone's like, "If you don't agree with my viewpoint, just unfollow me." I'm like, "Well, I still like you as a human being. I don't have
right.
to like your
That was
viewpoint all the time, but doesn't mean I still can't accept you."
right. And that's what, at first, I was horrified.
Mhm.
All these people that had been, you know, uh, friends, quote unquote friends, with me for years, all of a sudden didn't like me anymore because I said we should be civil. I mean, come on. You know,
Yeah, there's no restraint anymore. Like, everything is instant. Like, you can put something out there, like, when you're really angry or something like that, and then, like, if you had taken the time to think about it overnight, you may have worded it different. You may have put the same thing out there, but it may have had a different tone to it.
right. Yeah.
We don't need to always express everything the exact minute that we're feeling it. Although it's interesting because I'm seeing less pictures of food and stuff now because people weren't going to restaurants as much, so I didn't have to watch everyone's food choices for a while. So that was kind of refreshing. But I just think it's interesting. I know that for myself with social media, like, I know I have a private Facebook group that I share more than I probably do regularly, but, like, most of the time, whenever I would use my social media, like, I know when both my parents were sick, I would ask for healing energy and stuff for them, or I post a lot of pictures for the world when they come through on the social media and stuff like that. Like, today, I just posted one for 2/22/22. Um, it's just interesting to see how each person even chooses to use their social media and if they vent or if, they try it. What message are you spreading?
Right. And that's something that I have become more conscious of as we move forward because there was a period of time when literally my entire family was against me for something. It was either politics or COVID or animals or whatever it was. Everyone was against me. And I kind of had to take a step back and go, you know what, I can call people and talk about
Well, and I think too, when everyone goes through times of struggle, you find out who the people are, who your tribe
this.
is, who's really going to stay around you, who's going to still uplift you and support you and
Right.
be there for you without necessarily inciting a riot.
Right.
You know, it's social media can be used for good and it can be used for not so good.
Well, you can say that about anything,
Well,
really.
you can. And so I think it's your own personal intention of how you want to use it and what you want to do with it.
Yeah. And I think there are a lot of people who would be really served by maybe practicing some moderation in some of it. There was a friend of mine had a she had a tumor. It was inoperable. She went down to Belize. She had this shamanic journey, where she's fine now, but she got into Twitter wars with people when she tweeted about where she was going and what she was doing because people were like, oh, Western medicine is everything. And she had to explain. They say it's inoperable. What are my choices here?
Mhm,
But people were just bashing her for taking control of her own health. And I felt like, whoa, that's a little crazy. I mean, that's a little,
mhm.
so yeah, moderation.
It's all just really interesting.
Yeah. Remember when we were talking about the year 2020
Yes.
and we were
In the
talking,
year 2000, it was going to be the end of the world.
right,
Okay.
right. And in 2012, I was like, all right, whatever. I don't care. You know, but we talked about how humanity was changing and it was 2020 was like clear vision.
Mhm.
And boy, have we gotten a taste of that clear vision
Yeah, I
since
remember
2020.
thinking that, and I remember talking to you about like, yeah, 2020, like an eye chart. It's perfect
Mhm.
vision. It's clear vision. And I'm like, this wasn't exactly how I saw it playing out, but that message was definitely true because
Yep.
it's forced a lot of us to become clear on what's really important to us.
And clear on the path we're supposed to be on. I mean, it's rather intense for me. That 2020 was my year when everything hit the fan. But in different groups I'm in, I've realized that I know so many people who went through the same thing in 2020.
Mhm,
It was some people look at it as catastrophic, and some people look at it as, well, it was about time that happened. And
mhm.
I'm just kind of like, whatever. At this point, with things I've been through in my life, I'm like,
You're
bring
just
it,
going with the
bring.
flow now.
Well, when I was a kid, my grandmother told me that life would be much easier for me when I stopped paddling upstream and
Mhm.
went with the flow. And I never understood what she was saying. but I do now.
What's the famous "sow what you reap and reap what you sow," or whatever? How I may have said it backwards, but my grandmother used to say that to me all the time.
Yeah.
And then there's my favorite quote. I can't remember exactly how he wrote it, Soren Kierkegaard, but it's "Life must be lived forwards and only understood backwards."
Backwards. Yeah. Yeah.
Because I think that's so much. We always get the test first, and then we learn the lesson.
Yep.
And once you kind of sink into that, knowing that that's kind of going to be how things go, makes going through them easier because eventually you're going to understand why. It
Yeah.
just may take a while.
Well, and eventually, at least in my case, I learned all those signs that I ignored,
Mhm,
literally decades worth of signs and I just ignored. And, I started my spiritual journey when I was a child.
mhm.
And then I started really studying in the early 80s. And then I got away from it completely. I went into the music industry for a while. I did a whole bunch of different things, went into therapy for a while, went into a whole bunch of things. And I have owned 34 businesses in my life. I've done everything from coin operated laundromats to owning an apartment building to, everything you can think of. I'm still have a real estate license. And I just, it's like I was searching for something that felt as good as what I was doing as a child that I got made fun of for doing.
Mhm.
And, here I am right back pretty much where I started. But there were signs everywhere. I had real estate clients who would tell me, you know what you should be doing. And, I'd run into musicians, you know what you should be doing. And it was just, I, no, 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 no.
Do
And
you,
finally,
do you ever get the talk? Well, if you have so many gifts and you can't figure it out, what am I supposed to do?
yeah,
That's people love to say that to me, and then my response is, "Well, I'm still a human being, so I still have issues and things that I
right,
need to work on. I may understand things or have an understanding of how the universe works and get messages really quickly and things like that, but I
yeah,
still have my own karma and my own stuff to work through because I'm in human form."
right.
So,
Oh,
and I always get surprised when people say that to me.
yeah.
And then people love to compare themselves to me. Well, if you're doing this, then I'm in kindergarten. And I'm like, this isn't a competition.
It's not a race. I get that all the time. Well, I should be further along. No, you are exactly where you're supposed to be.
So our one of our viewers wrote, great day for those born on the second. Yep.
Yeah, yeah,
Actually, my birthday, the day is number two. I was born on the second. So many master numbers in my chart. People love to do my chart and stuff for numerology. They're like, "Do you have any idea how many master numbers?" Again, still human, still have issues to work on, still need to get through everything just like everyone else.
yep, yep, yep. One of my things is, yeah, I hear my guides and I hear angels and I go, no, you know what? That sounds really great, but I'm going to do it this way over here. And then I wonder why I get myself in trouble. It's like, yeah, yeah, that stubborn streak, 5 miles long.
But I think sometimes you have to become stubborn because like, I got teased a lot when I was little, like, I had to wear an eye patch and things like that, I was made fun
Yeah,
of a lot, and so you kind of learn ways to use your gifts and not use your gifts. One of our viewers wrote, "Free will and the lessons we end up learning the hard way."
yeah,
Or not learning and getting smacked by the 2 by 4 until you do learn it
yeah,
and surrender into it. It can go either way.
yeah.
I remember someone saying to me, and we've talked about this before, how I always said I was a reluctant mystic, and people told me I needed to stop saying that. So then I made my Twitter account Joyful Mystic. 'Cause I'm like, okay, I'll just flip it around.
Yeah,
But, I think that sometimes you can have a lot of gifts, and it's a lot of responsibility to have a lot of gifts. And it's a lot of responsibility to always use them for good because there's times where my brain will go, I could do this.
Yeah, yeah,
I could do this.
yeah,
This one's a lot more fun, but this one's
right.
gonna bring more karma.
Yeah.
So, and to have to think about things like on that level sometimes can seem overwhelming.
It gets overwhelming. Um, Especially, I do paranormal investigations, and almost every time someone will come up to me and say, "Wow, I want to be that gifted." And the first thought in my head is, "No, you don't. No, you don't." But
Especially when not happy things are happening in the world and you can feel, see, and you experience all of them, or when there's like a few weeks ago, there was let's say a few years ago, there was a mass transition and trying to help all those souls cross over. It can be a lot, and it can take its toll on you physically, and it's really important, no matter who you are, learning to set boundaries and limits. One of my
well,
friends was telling me, after this is funny, I'm going to share this story. One of my friends was telling me that I helped a boy who died. His mother was at the thing I did on Sunday, and I gave her a bunch of messages. And he came through to my friend, who's a transport angel, and said, "Thank you." And she's like, "Why are you coming to me?" And he said, "Because everybody knows when Gail's at her real job, there's a big closed sign, and that we can't talk to her till she's done with work."
yeah, yeah,
So it's just really funny.
yeah.
So our viewer wants to know, so how close have you both come to using your gifts for not so good? Okay, so I will admit to this one. So I had a situation at a job I had where it was really difficult, and all I wanted to do was make a voodoo doll. All my
Yeah,
friends said, "You can't do that. That's bad. That's gonna bring." I'm like, "I'll just give her like a hangnail or something. I won't do anything." So it ended up, because I talked about doing it so much, this doll got created, and I could see it in an alternate reality. So instead, I sprinkled it with pink glitter and sent it love and sent it confidence. And so, I turned a situation that I could have gone not pleasant way to a very pleasant way.
yeah. Yeah, no, I have quite the temper. It is better now, but
Mhm.
especially when I was a kid, because people would set me up. I had kids in the neighborhood who would say, "Yeah, I see ghosts too," and then they would make fun of me because they were just teasing me. And I came very, very close to breaking some legs. I did not. The closest I came to really causing anything bad was when I was young and I wanted to go on the shrimp boat and they wouldn't let me. And I had a wash tub of water. Well, I didn't, but there was a wash tub of water. And I created a whirlpool. And the boat started sinking. I had to go, whoa, whoa, no, 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 no. Don't want the karma for that one. But yeah, it's,
Well,
it's,
and I think that sometimes you don't always realize the power you have either, that
yeah,
you can actually make these things happen. Like when that doll got created in another dimension, I'm like, huh, that's really interesting. What do
yeah,
I do with it now? It was
yeah,
never like I was just joking around. I would have never done it anyway. I was just, blowing off steam and venting, but it's like I didn't realize I had the kind of power to do that.
right. What I do now, if something really, really angers me, which believe me, I had a really nasty divorce. It's happened. I have to walk around my house on the outside of my house, preferably, and say, "You guys got to help me. You got to help me get through this because I don't want to do what I'm thinking about doing." And I just walk until I walk it out.
Mhm.
And finally, I put everything in a giant black ball and I kick it harder than I've ever kicked anything in my life.
Well,
Um,
and you have to remember is that's human nature, right?
it
If
is.
we feel hurt or slighted, our first inclination is to do something to get back or even. Either that or you internalize it all and
Yeah.
stuff it all down. Those are kind of the two options.
Right.
You're going to go to, and then it's about how do you take a different perspective and how do you do something differently.
Right. Right.
So,
Yeah. When I was very young and way too young to be married with a child, he was incredibly abusive. And instead of venting, or because I had no one, he had alienated me from my family, my friends, I had no one. I internalized it.
mhm.
And I ended up at 26 having surgery for 3 ulcers that were completely formed around the inside of my stomach. The surgeon said I had maybe 2 inches of clean tissue left. And that was a huge wake up call. It's like, I can't do that because I do have that kind of power. And if I wasn't going to be able to vent and lash out at him, the
Mhm.
only one left, it was me.
Mhm.
So, yeah, talk about learning a lesson the hard way.
So thank you, viewer. That was a great question. Hope
Yep.
we answered it for you. We're kind of coming to the end of the show for today.
Yep.
So anything that you want to say to wrap up on 2/22/22?
Try to be balanced, more balanced than everyone currently is.
Okay.
Good luck with that too, by the way. I'm working on that one myself.
All right, everybody, have a great week. We will be back to our normal day of Wednesday next week. But like I said, we just wanted to play with the energy of the day today. So
Yep.
we moved the podcast to today. Everybody, have a great night and week, and we will see you all again really soon. Take care, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.